All set, Don.
All right, I call this meeting of the Northbrook Fire Station Building Committee on August 28th, 2024 to order. First, I'd like to announce that John Rappin is here as a liaison from the Financial Planning Committee. He will not be voting, but he gives us his input, which is always appreciated. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the July 31st, 2024. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Second, we have an update on amendments 5, code update, and 6, under slab drainage.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I received a request for 2 amendments. You guys have seen these. I sent them out to you, but I wanted to make sure we spoke to it so it was on a recording so the public knew what was going on. Amendment 5 from HKT was because we've pushed back the bidding, it pushes everything else back, which could push our pulling of the building permit back past January 1st, and the new codes could kick in, which would then necessitate another review and updates and all that. So that was one amendment, and I'll talk about that in a second. The other amendment was for under slab, design of the under slab drainage system. That one has to move forward because we need that done in order to move forward with the project. One of them was $15,150, and the other one was $5,250. As you know, our budget was about $10,000 left in our budget. So what I did is I sat down with the, left in the budget of the original appropriation from the town meeting. I sat down with Jason, our finance director, and made a suggestion of where I thought I could get the money from out of my budget, out of one of my revolving accounts. He approved. That's where the additional $5,000 came out of, or to cover the balance of the under slab. So we're all set with that one. That's been signed, executed, sent. We're all set. The other one, I didn't, and as I said to you all in the email I sent out to you, that I recommend we hold that until such time I can converse with the building official to see if potentially we can pull the permit before January 1st, because he indicated to me he thought we could, provided he had A, B, C, D, E. He had these items. So he has been crazy busy, so he hasn't had a chance to sit down and talk. I do have a couple of emails into him. The next thing is going to be me knocking on his door. I just want a list so I can give the list to Colliers and to HKT. I don't see any problem with it. It was, set of plans and some other things. So, and he thinks he could process that in time to get it to us, which would save us that $5,000, and potentially even if some changes were made to the code, it would save us money on the other end as well. So that's the 2 updates. I just wanted to make sure that you both had those and the public had those updates.
Any questions or any discussion? Okay. Update from the pre-qualification subcommittee.
I can take that one. So we placed the ads in the Central Register and published the RFQs, and they've been out for a few weeks now, a couple of weeks. We are expecting those to come in on September 4th, but I did go on to Project Dog where they're being hosted, and we have about, there's about 4 pages, and this is a pretty small font. So we've started to go through and just make sure we have good coverage on all the different trades. It takes a little while because they don't always specify which category they're going after. Mechanical guys also do plumbing and vice versa, and somebody may be putting in as that they do finish work, but at least it's categorized that way on Project Dog, but they're going for resilient floor versus ceiling tile or something else. So we're just going to go through. We did get 2 elevators companies pick up. They haven't submitted yet, so we'll see. But 2 elevator companies have picked up the documents, which is a good sign, because we often, every single project, have problem getting 3 to pre-qualify. So once we get those in on the 4th, we'll start going through the review process, and we'll have some meetings with the committee and talk about what we found out from what people have submitted, and go from there. So our schedule that you see up there is that we're intending to go through that process until towards the end of October. and then try and finalize that and get that information out, that list of who's been pre-qualified out to all the firms prior to town meeting.
Thanks, Tim. Just, if I can just add one or two more things. We did have to elect, we didn't have to, we elected a chair of the subcommittee, which is Diana, because she stuck me on the committee, so I stuck her as chair. And it's important to understand the first meeting we had was a public meeting. All of the rest of the meetings, probably except for the last one, will not be public meetings. So it's not simply because of what we're talking about. It's not for public consumption. So it's not, we're hiding anything. That's just the way the meetings are done.
They
So,
have to be public posted meetings, but executive session
correct.
together.
Yep. So I just wanted to make sure people were aware of that.
Okay.
Any questions about that process or any steps we have to go through going forward?
No, it sounds like the numbers are really good. You got quite a few already, so that's,
We did, which is really promising, but again, we'll double check it and just fine tune, try and go through, make sure we have full coverage on all the different categories. And if we find that we're a little bit low, we'll try and call around to firms that are DCAM certified and let them know it's out there and encourage them to participate. Because if they don't submit and the fourth comes and we find out that we're short in one category or another, we have to go through that whole re-advertising process. So better to call around and encourage people to submit their qualifications and avoid that that delay or that period of reposting and re-advertising for 2 weeks.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Madam Chair, question for Tim. How many subcategories or trades groups are you looking to go out to?
It's about 10 or so.
Okay.
There's overall, I think there's maybe 12 to 14 categories total, but we don't have terrazzo in this project, and there's a couple other categories that we may not have in our project, so we didn't go out to those. But it's pretty much the typical ones for that 99 or say 95% of projects go after. It's the mechanical, electrical, plumbing. It's the fire protection, certain finishes like resilient flooring or wall tile, acoustical ceilings, painting. There's a number of categories. It's kind of an odd grouping. It's not some of the big trades that the general contractor would fall under the general contractor, and they go out and get those numbers like site work or something like that. But masonry, obviously a brick building, masonry will be a big package. So that is one of the pre-qualified ones. So yeah, I don't have that list in front of me, but it's
Good. Thank you.
sure.
Anyone else? Okay. Construction document review and total project cost. Who's handling that one?
That would be me. So I passed around a 2-page handout, and the slide that you have here is just kind of giving you the headings, and then I really just wanted to dive down to the bottom of it. And really, this was our kind of high and low range that we've been talking about since February. And if you look at the bottom or page 2 of this handout or on the slide, on the left, you can see our range was 42.3 million to 49.1 million. That was where we originally started back in February. You know, 42 to 43 to roughly $50 million project. And as we've added things and there's been decisions made on scope, added in geothermal, made some decisions on the retaining wall and so forth, the numbers have shifted a little bit, but we've been able to reduce that range. That it was a pretty big range when we started. So as we went through and at schematic design, and after we made some decisions on the geothermal, you can see we were at 43.6 million to 46.4. So the range has gotten a little bit tighter. And then when we got to the design development, and we had some put in some costs that we hadn't been carrying, which was in that original $3.5 million initial appropriation, which is we were carrying going forward. What we didn't have is the cost for any of the site cleanup or the purchase of the site. So those have been added into the project budget. And so at that point, we were at the 44.3 to 46.9. So again, still within that original range, but it's just been narrowing and it's kind of going up and down, bouncing around in there. But now that we got to the construction document phase, the documents are further along, our estimators have a little bit more to look at and be able to put numbers to than versus just putting a contingency. They know there's something that's going to get designed to fill that spot, but they don't know what it is yet. So now that we're there, and based on having the entire scope of work that had been done and what we anticipate, we come up with a recommended budget to go forward with of a total of 44.863 as a total project budget. And then obviously, if you want to go to the next slide. So the summary of that is, we have the building construction itself. We have, again, the FF&E, which is the various loose furnishings that are within the building. We have the fees and expenses. That's also where we're carrying the cost of the purchase of the property. Then we have contingency for construction. And so that equals that $44,863,992. And then we have the original appropriation of $3.499 million. So you back that out, and so what we would need to go for an additional appropriation would be the $41,364,992. But I know there's a lot of information here, and I provided that so you have a chance to be able to look at it. But the takeaway from this is that we've been maintaining this range in this $45 million, roughly $45 million project cost since February, since we started talking about values from the original schematic design estimate. So there's been a lot of changes along the way, but we've maintained that cost. We haven't gone up, we haven't gone down. We've stayed right in the middle of that range. So that's a lot of credit to the design team for making those documents clear so that the estimators, as they go through it, they can have some pretty tight numbers. Because I don't have the estimate reconciliation that we just went through the 50% set, but they were within
I have the numbers.
well, they were within like $200,000 or 100 and.
200 and-
PNC was 33,277,997, and TCI was 33,552,628, so 200,000 is pretty.
I sat through that reconciliation again, which was another enjoyable time. But it's just, I was amazed at how close, at the end, I went, you're that close together? Yeah, but their discussions were interesting to see, some of them, because one cost estimator puts something in this section, another one puts it in this section, and they can't find it in each. Oh, here it is. It was just really interesting when they watching the whole thing. Long time, but it was interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad they do that work and not me.
Yeah.
But by going through that, and you have two separate teams looking at these documents, that's what's going to happen when we go out to bid. We're going to have separate contractors looking at it. And we're not expecting the numbers to come in exactly the same. But the fact that they came in as close as they did means that they're looking at, the documents are clear, and they're taking away the same quantities of materials, and they may carry a different number for the actual cost per pound or per square foot, but they're seeing the scope of the project the same, and that's what's really important. So hopefully on bid day, again, we have a nice tight cluster of bids that come in.
Questions, discussion?
Madam Chair, questions, please? So on this slide, Tim, the sunk costs are $3.5 million, and we're looking at $41.3 million, and that's solid for now?
Yes, that's basically a reconciled estimate at 50% construction documents. I don't think there's scope that's really we're looking to add. There may be some adjustments, but based on having 3.7 in contingency, which is during construction, we do have a small design contingency still carried, and you carry that until the very end. So as we make any adjustments here or there, I think we have more than we have pockets where we can adjust to compensate for those.
Madam Chair, if I may, just something you said triggered. So I had a meeting, I had an officers meeting the other day, and I was explaining to them we were pricing the building out at 50% construction documents. And they said, okay, so that means this is 50% of the price, right? I said, no, it's not what it means. So they were confused. Could you just, there's people watching who will watch this, could you just try and clarify that? I mean, we've heard it lots of times, but if you could clarify that for the people that are watching so they understand what that means, it's not 50% of the price.
Sure, and we get caught in that trap a lot where we're throwing around a lot of jargon and we forget that we're not talking to the people in the next cubicle over in our office, that we're talking to people who don't do this every day. So as you go through the design process, and if I'm missing anything, please jump in, but the documents or schematic design, it's very loose. Is this feasible to build on this site? What size would the building be? And the pricing that gets attributed to that level of design is maybe just a square footage cost. There's no real detail there. And then you go through, further that up, and you get into design development. You're really kind of fine tuning the floor plan and some of those things, but you're not getting what equipment is going in, and maybe some of the things are, you don't really have the structural laid out yet, and there's still maybe some questions that the engineers are trying to work through. Maybe the mechanical system, are we doing, forced hot air, are we doing a radiant floor, those types of things. And so as you get into the construction documents, that's where you're really building in those details so that somebody can take those documents and actually build from, not just design and come up with the plan and a schematic. They actually have to be able to go out to bid. And so that process, we have a certain time period that's going to take. And as they're going from their milestone at design development and then the end of construction documents, you're about halfway through getting all that detail really fine-tuned and established. So you're still maybe building out your specifications, you're still maybe putting some final details in, but you know what the structural system is, you know what the mechanical system is. There's some equipment that maybe, we need to carry something for that. We don't have it fully designed yet. And that's where our pricing contingency comes in. So in the beginning of design, you have maybe a 10% pricing contingency because you don't really know those details. And the designer or the estimators know, well, something's going to go there. We just don't know exactly what. So we give it a number to carry a placeholder for it. And as we go through and get to the end, now we have maybe a 2% or 2.5%. 3% design contingency to cover those final details that are going to get worked out between now and going out to bid. So it's not that there's half the building is done. It's really the whole thing is done. It's just getting those final details.
And the only other thing I'd like you to clarify, and again, we've all heard it a zillion times, but when I look at this, I see total construction cost is $33,415,000. Why is the total price 44? So could you talk about the hard cost versus the soft cost and what is what?
Yeah, so the contractor would come in with a bid, and hopefully their bid comes in at 33 million or lower. And that's what is the contractors are responsible for. But there's a lot of other parts and pieces of the project. So furniture, fixtures, and equipment, all the furniture that goes into the building. The loose stuff, if you were to be able to shake the building, and what fell out of it is the FF.
That's a good way to put that. I didn't think of it like that one.
So, it's the admin furniture, it's the sleeping quarters, the beds and the lockers and some of those types of things that might be shelving and to be able to hang your gear or put the hoses on or different types of items. And then there's the cost of designing the project for the architect, for their engineers and sub-consultants, for the OPM, for me. And any of the other costs that may come up along the way. So we have a legal line item in the budget for bond costs or some of those types of costs that get applied to the project. So everything that the town would have to spend for the project should be included within our budget. And that's what that fees and expenses kind of carries. And contingency, and this is construction and owner's contingency, which is a little different than our design contingency, which is really built into that 33 million of cost of what a contractor would bid. The contingency is for is construction, those unknowns, those things that may come up that you're digging in the ground and you find something you weren't expecting. Or just, this isn't a mass-produced Chevy that they do thousands of them a day. This is, it's a one-of-a-kind building, and sometimes there's things that didn't quite go as expected or didn't quite fit together the way you were expecting, and there's a cost to put that together. Something maybe got missed, and you would, if it had been included, you would have had to increase your cost of construction of your bid, but if it's not there, we need to be able to pay for it somehow. So that's what contingency is typically used for. Or for additional design for, you know what, we want to add this type of system, and we didn't think of it before, but we want to add it. And so owner's project would cover that, any kind of design fees that might be associated with anything like that. And sometimes it's not just mistakes or errors or unknowns. Sometimes it's, you know, as you're moving through the project, there's something that comes up, you know, that's a better way to do it. It's the right thing to do. It makes sense. And so you have the money to be able to have some flexibility to be able to make some of those decisions. Certainly, we like to hold as much of that as we can until the very, very end, and because you don't know how construction is. But that's what the intent of those funds are. So everything below total estimated construction is what we classify as soft costs, and the construction would be the hard cost.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
So,
Done.
follow-on question, Tim. So for purposes of financial planning and appropriations, in terms of what the town will be asking for at town meeting, is the 41,364.9, yes?
Yes.
I was going to ask the same question, because I need to bring that to my board to place that on the warrant. So you have, I know you can't guarantee it, I'm not going to ask that, but you have a strong level of confidence that given the information as to where we are, that's an appropriate number to ask for.
Exactly. We've built in escalation costs for the time until construction, and we've built in, again, that design contingency for really from now until we go out to bid. We feel really comfortable. We've had 2 independent estimators looking at the actual construction cost. And the soft costs, we have a ton of projects that we've looked at over the years and made some adjustments as the economy has changed. You know, for instance, one of the soft costs is material testing. So we have an independent company that comes on site, tests the concrete for consistency, for how watery it is or how thick it is, and they take a look at the rebar and the formwork before the concrete goes in. And so there's a cost, you know, the labor, there's still all labor for them. So it's, you know, we've had to adjust over the years, but we think that we're carrying an appropriate amount for the current economy.
And this warrant article will read not to exceed, correct?
I would assume that's how the wording would be. Mitch, I never
Yeah,
saw
I
what
mean,
you guys
it will,
voted on.
yeah, I mean, it will match, you know, it comes as a recommendation from Andy, which comes from the Department of
Right.
Revenue on how to ask for.
This is what you
exclusions.
appropriate, so what you
Yeah,
appropriate is what you can
Yeah, it's an
spend.
appropriation for this.
There
Yeah.
is language in the financial planning report which says not to exceed that also.
We've heard so many people with the fear that it's just going to keep going.
Yeah,
so.
it's no different. The way I look at it is, every year, I bring my budget, and the budget gets passed. And that's what I had to spend. Now, I can't exceed that. That's what was appropriated. The town has what was appropriated. That's what you're allowed to spend. It's no different with this project.
Yeah,
No, and I understand that, but
Oh, I know.
we need to make it clear to everyone that
yeah.
it will not go higher than this.
Yes, they've been
It
throwing,
must go-
and you also have to, there's been a lot of people throwing $70 million around. So if you buy a house and you pay $300,000 for it, when you're done after 30 years, you paid more than 300. It's no different.
Right.
You're buying something, you're paying interest on it.
Right, yeah, you appropriate the principal.
Correct. Yep.
And then we don't know what the interest will be, because we won't go out to bond for it for a little while.
That's correct.
And that's something that our finance director will sort out and look at different terms and there are a lot of different ways. There's much more flexibility in how you go out for a municipal bond than you do for a simple
Yes.
home loan. And they work with financial advisors to figure those things out. And when the time is right, we'll go for it with the least expensive way possible. And the way that makes the most sense, given the financial outlook of the town, not only projects on the books now, but projects that we expect to be on the books later.
Now, I just want to talk a little bit about the town meeting process, and I hope my question is, we go to the floor with 41,364,992. and someone stands up and says, I want to cut 10 million off of that.
I mean, in theory, town meeting can approve that.
But that-
I hope they also approve money to redesign the building.
Because
we've designed it, that's the
That's my
cost of that
point.
design.
It's designed to this price.
Yeah.
You can't just stand up and cut 5 million or 10 million.
Right.
You can. It's like any town meeting. I've seen line items zeroed out.
Yeah.
But that is essentially does the same thing. It kills the project at that point.
Yeah.
That's what they make that.
Is it appropriate to round up this number so it's more memorable, like 41,365 or 41,370?
Yeah, with
or-
$992, yeah, I thought about that too, but I wanted the math to work. But yeah, you could say 41.4 million, and it's a nice round number, and it's easy, and yes, it's a couple thousand, it's a little bit more than what we had, but when you're talking $41 million, another 40,000 to make it a round number, I don't know, might be appropriate, but that's for you guys to decide if you want to.
My preference is just use the math. Just use that number right there. I think that's because that's the most defensible. That's, we didn't round, we didn't estimate.
As much as I would love to say, Tom, I agree with you 100%, I'm with Mitch on this. I think when you can go in and say, this is what the numbers say, that's what the numbers say.
Yeah.
I'm not adding $5 because to make it look, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't start with a bottom line and
Right.
back into it. We certainly put through all the various numbers and estimates for all the various line items, and this is what it came up to.
Yeah, and it's also important, and I know we all understand this, that just because the town appropriates $41,364,992 doesn't mean it can't come in at 40 million or 39 million or whatever, because Lincoln Street School's the best, my first year here, and Colliers was actually the OPM, and that came in $1 million under.
Yep.
So you don't know what's gonna happen, so you have to appropriate what you think, just like when I buy a fire truck, I ask for this much money, if I spend less, I turn it back, it just, yeah.
We're setting everything up to have the most competitive bid possible.
Exactly.
We're appropriating the money first so that hopefully more contractors will bid because they know it's a real project.
Yes.
Because a lot of contractors don't want to spend the real considerable time, because they have to do exactly what these cost estimators did and figure out how they're gonna bid. And so we see how much work that is. There are gonna be people that won't wanna do it unless they know it's a real project. So we're putting ourselves in the best position possible for it to be substantially less than that, but we won't know until, probably the early part of 2025, exactly what it will be. And then further refined, obviously, throughout the project. And I was gonna mention exactly the same thing. The most recent example we have is the Lincoln Street School project, and you guys were the OPM, so.
Yeah, that was
It
a
worked
great
out
project.
successfully.
We had a good team. Hopefully, we can get some of the same team members on the contractor side. Again, we are out for pre-qualification, and it is worth highlighting that the people who submit for this pre-qualification, that's your bid pool. Somebody can't join later. So that's why we're spending a lot of time to reach out to these firms and make sure everybody's aware that this project is out there.
The only other number we need to keep in mind, and it's not what's being voted on, but we need to keep in mind, is that 1.9 million, that rebate for the geothermal.
Yeah, I was gonna
So
ask
it's
about
important for the committee to keep that in mind, but this is the number that goes in front of the town meeting, but it's 1.9 million, I believe. is what
So
the
I was
total
gonna ask for a refinement on that, and I don't expect you to have that today. So with geothermal, there are really 3 rebates that I think we'll be getting. 2 are geothermal and 1 is the EV charges, which is a lot less money. With the EV, there's the state, which is a dollar amount based upon I think the tonnage capacity of the system. I don't remember the details, but it's not based on the dollar amount. It's based on the capacity of the system. On the assumption that the capacity has not changed from what was initially presented to us, it would be the same dollar amount, but it would be good for somebody now that they've gone through and really designed it, did that change? And then the federal rebate is based on the cost of this. And I looked through here, and the cost is like all HVAC is combined, and not all of the HVAC is geothermal. So it would be, I think, very valuable to do a recap on, okay, what's the current cost estimate of the geothermal system, so that we can present to town meeting, based upon this cost estimate, what is the expected value of those rebates, so we can present that, because the cost estimate has changed since it was presented a few months ago, so I expect the rebate will have changed also. That's fair. And then on the EV chargers, just to take a look and make sure we're getting at least $50,000 back, which I think is the maximum per address rebate that you can get on EV chargers through.
No, one other thing.
Sure.
I apologize.
Okay, yeah.
I'm trying to do too many things. This number we're looking at includes the PV panels on the roof.
Oh, it does?
It does.
Okay,
Which number is that, chief?
That number, 41,364, includes the PV panels on the roof.
we
It's
haven't,
not designed yet, so it's just a
Oh,
placeholder,
okay.
63.7 kilowatt,
Okay.
package. But they did decide,
All right.
the chief was there and said to include it because they were doing so much.
Because of the
infrastructure.
pricing.
yeah.
And then
I
we-
think, I'm hoping that eventually we get there, but the board hasn't.
No, the only reason I mentioned it is because you had mentioned the rebates for it.
And then that's a fourth rebate then to look at.
That's why, that's why,
Yep, I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay.
Well, and to that end, it might be good to have some data on the operational savings
Yeah.
if you do install them at the time of construction. That's something.
So would we be then, with this, making that part of the bid? Or is this still going to be something we do at the end?
Right now, we carried the number for the construction portion of that. And if the group was to decide that, you know what, we want to keep that in the project, then we can do an amendment with HKT to have a solar design.
Okay, so at this point, you're carrying the cost as if we were going to do it, but it's not being designed to be part of the bid documents?
Can't be, because you don't have the funding to do that right now. So
Right.
we'd have to wait till after November 5th.
Yeah.
And it's a specialty engineer,
Yeah.
so right now,
Okay.
the electrical engineer shows an area on his drawing
Mm-hmm.
for where they could be, and the cost estimators use that for an estimate.
Gotcha, okay,
So that's.
good.
And
Yeah,
just a reminder to everyone that the rest of the building is set up to receive the system.
Yes.
So part of the cost is inherent whether or not the panels are purchased.
Right, which is why
After the
they
fact.
went with carrying it, because they had to do so
Yeah.
much infrastructure, and they were debating whether, how much to put in, and then, you don't do any, if you don't anticipate doing it for 5, 10 years, then, that you could be designing for a system that doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided the number was so low relatively, I don't remember the number exactly, I could probably.
it was fairly low. I was surprised.
Like $250,000.
Yeah, it was like it was like $260,000 or something.
I'd have to look it up, but, so they all agreed that it was worth putting it in, for that amount of money.
okay,
Yeah.
no, that's good to know.
We
Yeah.
still have to do the
So-
engineering.
So back to that, I think it is going to be very helpful, hopefully by the time that the select board discusses this on the 9th of September, to get an updated rebate expectation based upon this budget would be
Yeah,
very,
we
very
can-
helpful.
We can talk to,
To talk to GGD, they
Yeah.
would be the ones, yeah.
moving forward, if you were to go forward and want these rebates, we could talk about getting a consultant who helps with that and is really a tax savvy, so that you're starting off the correct way and making sure that anything that we need as far as documentation to submit is included, that requirement is included in the documents and so forth and so on.
Yep.
So, but we haven't gotten to that point.
Right, right. Yeah, and I certainly want our town finance director involved in that discussion, because he's educated himself on this process. So I want to use somebody that he's comfortable with in that kind of process.
John, you had a question?
Yeah, in the financial planning report, there's a table that shows projected annual tax impact to residents based on assessed value, and there's a couple of assumptions in there, one of which is it's anticipated that $1.9 million in rebates associated with the geothermal system will be received on a timeline that allows for no debt to be issued for that portion. If you're going to fine tune that number, how quickly might you get it? Tim?
I think we'd probably just confirm that it's the 1.9.
Okay.
If they ran it and it was 1.7 or 1 point, if it's substantially different, we would give you a heads up. But I think what we'll try and do is see if it's in that neighborhood of 1.9.
Right, because the other assumption is the town will borrow the net difference between the 41.3 and the rebates.
Yeah, I've heard that the federal rebate is very quick, that at least it currently is. That's what some of the consultants who advocate for this, who I've listened to them speak, have said. So that it's actually, even before you lock in your final borrow and wrap it all up, you kind of already have that money back and have received it. So I don't count on that, but that would be great if it continues.
Federal and very quick in the same sentence.
And it's the IRS, believe it or not.
Yeah.
This has really led us into the discussion and the possible vote on the cost for the special town meeting warrant. So we're kind of discussing that already anyway, so just to continue the discussion.
Yeah, it may be just that there aren't that many applications in yet. The program is really getting ramped up, and so in a couple of years, when we're submitting, it may be a lot slower, who knows?
Okay. Any other discussion on this price? Is everybody comfortable using that number?
It's what the math shows. So it's the right number.
I'm looking to the pros from Dover to corroborate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's estimates for the construction, it's estimates and placeholders for the rest of the budget. But there's a method to the madness, and we think that, we feel comfortable recommending that, this amount to you.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, is everyone ready, comfortable to make a vote? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved.
I think it's a motion to request a budget of $41,364,992 from town meeting appropriation for the project. Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion?
You may want to just make the motion that you're adding to the additional to the original 3.4 for a total of 44.
All we need to worry about now is the appropriation.
For this one.
The 3.5 was appropriated a couple of years
Okay.
ago. So
Yeah,
that's,
I think that would muddy the waters.
Yeah. I'd be afraid that we'd be spending it again. So, motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? No. Unanimous. Okay. Educational video program update and distribution.
Yeah,
Neil?
I can talk to it, but you're the one who's been dealing with Kaylee, and I think you're the one who deserves the credit for it, so.
No, I don't.
Do you want the thing you gave me?
Okay.
So one of the questions, and the reason I put this on here was, there was a question about distribution of these, and I think you had mentioned it, John, had asked how we're getting them out there. And we're doing them numerous different ways, working really closely with Northborough Cable, and I just wanted the deputy to be able to speak to all the different ways, and actually even what the analytics are showing already.
Yeah, I mean, sorry about that. Funny thing is, the chief's gonna have me do data stuff. I mean, this is kind of weird.
It is.
So anyways, yeah, as we've talked about before, we've been working with Norfolk Cable, specifically Kaylee, Home Run, that whole organization. Huge benefit to this community, the way that the knowledge they have and being able to do with the, never mind the technical, but being able to interact with everybody and coordinate everybody and do all the videos and stuff. Huge thanks to everybody that did the videos too, as I mentioned the last time. Total team effort, and I think it's great that we have so much information out there and so many different platforms that really it's accessible to so many people that, if they're looking for it, it's there. So we did roll the videos out, and we rolled them out mostly on the station webpage link. Northbrook Cable put them out on their links. They're running them out on the cable channel for that group. And then there's some other avenues that they've been pushing out. But one thing that Kaylee did that she recommended is, our society is if it's not completely easy.
If it's not one click, they won't do
They're not going to
it.
really look at it, right? So it gets difficult. So, we put out all the videos and you can watch them all at one, or you can pick one or the other. And then what she recommended was to she gave me the direct links. So you can put it on the Facebook page. So it actually, as you scroll, the video's playing. You don't have to click anything to go to the video or anything. It just starts playing. And so when she did some of the data on her end and we did some of the data on our end, that had a dramatic change. So we had a big spike when they first went out. Big spike on the first couple of videos in the series because people were trying to get kind of an idea. Obviously, the finance one had some big numbers. Trying to see which one was the biggest one for you because this is tough. So the top ones were 7. So that's the finance one, how we got here, the difference between them, the history of the project, the introduction, and then the overall one with all the episodes. So we're looking at, I don't know if she has the total numbers.
We had like a
Oh, here we go.
yeah.
Here we go on this one. So the introduction one has 274 views as of a couple of days ago. And the way she explained it, you just don't know those exact numbers. You know, it could be multiple people watching them. It could be one person watching them 3 times or whatever. But it just shows that they're getting out there. And that was her numbers before we started rolling them out the other way. And I'm not going to get into total numbers, but I will say the bar graphs do go up. Some of them are above average, some of them are with average, a couple are kind of below average. And then you can see where we released, like, for example, the intro one, we released it for a while, and then it got kind of more traction, and it went dramatically up by like 2,000 people, like 2,000 catch, you know.
This is after it was released out on Facebook individually.
So so we're still rolling them out, and the plan, because you can only roll them out so fast before, you know, some of them are short, some of them are long. The goal is to get at least up to the finance ones out before the select board's meeting. That way people have a good idea on the money part, 'cause that's obviously the most important one that everybody wants, right? We might even, I've made plans to meet with Kaylee tomorrow to kind of maybe take some stuff from this meeting, and we might even just take Collier's, you know, description of some of the stuff, cut it up and put that straight out, and some of the other discussions, and kind of mash it together and put it out, because, you know, unfortunately, no one watched the whole meeting, you know. So if we can just take some minor stuff and keep it out there. So it's getting traction, and we're also putting it on Twitter. I don't have the analytics for that. Instagram, Facebook, you know, and then one other thing to kind of promote is the chief and I are going to work to try to meet with different organizations in town to give some factual information. And anytime we go out, we just keep on watching the videos. And, you know, kind of funny is this has been I've been involved in all the projects. This has been a long process. But I keep telling everybody that it's paying its dividends, because we have answers to just about every question you could imagine. We have answers to it. So now that most of the public are looking at us like, hey, I got this question. I got an answer for you. I got an answer for you. Oh, I got an answer. You know, and it shows a lot of confidence, builds a lot of trust that we're so on our game. So as much as it's been a long haul, but we'll try to get those out. But I lost my train of thought on different stuff. But so we have all those videos.
It's going really good. We're happy. It's amazing we all look good, which really impresses me.
Mm-hmm.
But what I mean by that is Kaylee, I know I stumbled, I know we all did, but the way she cut them together and then has the overlays, and it's just, I'm sure you guys have all watched them, at least I hope you have, and they just did an outstanding job. So really, really happy with it.
Yeah, no, it's very impressive. We've had people from outside of town that are in various positions of, you know, esteem that have looked at them and said, wow, this is pretty impressive. Like, you guys really went above and beyond. This is not what, you know, people usually
we're excited.
do. So anyways, but again, on that, we can do better. We can keep getting it out there. And the worst thing we could do is just put it out and then hope. So we're going to just keep pushing out everywhere you can get. You got to, I was going to tell you, so funny story, talk about how we know all the answers to everything. You know, we follow some of the social media channels, you know, and see what people's comments are and stuff, because, you know, that's part of our responsibility. And, you know, even last night, there was a couple of, like, questions on, one was, you know, why is this building more expensive than any building that's ever been built for a fire station? Oh, well, here, here's the link to video 4 and 6 that will explain why cost for municipal is so high, and here's comparisons to other stations. And it was really good to put that out there, and it was like, oh, thank you. You know, so it was really good to kind of just put those out there. So, you know, and I think that helps. And, you know, everybody can make their decision, but at least we've done everything we can to help people make an informed decision, and that's the important part.
May I suggest we add some old school to this? Talk to the advocate.
We have,
We have.
You have?
Yes.
several
It'd
occasions.
be nice for them to have even a small article on this
Yep.
to point people to it.
Yeah, I
We
think,
have.
my assumption, and, you know, we never want to make assumptions, but is that our local reporter was probably waiting for this meeting to give an update probably on price. I'm sure she's watching in, and then can kind of
Laura will take care of it.
tie it in together. So either that, or they'll wait for the select board, but I would imagine it's a big deal with the numbers actually out there. This is a big deal. I mean, this is a proud moment. This is, you know, so I'm sure there'll be something. If not, then, you know, maybe we'll just touch base with them. But yeah, just keep pushing it out to your friends, your families, you know.
Share it, share early, share often.
Share early, you know, often. But again, before I close out is, I can't speak positively enough about Northbrook Cable and Kaylee especially, and everybody that did the videos, because I know it was a lot for everybody logistically, and some people, probably most people, are not comfortable doing that stuff at all. But as you can see,
Yeah, there's a reason we're looking at Dan.
as you can see, Dan looks like a rock star.
Yeah.
That's me?
Yeah.
I did that? So, but anyway, so I appreciate it, and we'll just keep on moving
The makeup was
forward.
impeccable.
Yes.
Yeah, so, awesome. Yeah, I'm proud of it.
Thank you, Deb, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, discussion on Applefest booth.
Again, this is on here because someone had suggested it. I also did some looking into it because I've been trying to be very careful with what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. So I actually reached out to our town clerk, Andy, and I had him, because he's really the expert in it, I said, could you tell me? So he said, the fire station building committee can have a booth. I can't be there, Dan can't be there, deputy can't be there, paid employees can't be there. That would be a conflict, right? None of our equipment can be there, nothing that we produce can be there. So, okay, that makes sense, I understand. So I wanted to make sure before you got into discussion of who was covering what, you understood that we can't be there to do anything. So that's kind of an important thing. Other than that, he said you can be there to share information about the project, including the ballot vote and the cost. And he gave me a couple links if anybody wants it, but you guys have probably already seen about what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. I think there is a ballot question committee that has been forming or talking about forming, so I don't know if they're planning on doing anything for Applefest. But I guess we have to discuss if we're going to staff it, who's going to staff it, when you're going to staff it, and what you're going to have.
We're gonna have the materials. So I can't be there in the morning, but
I can't be there in the morning because I'm on the Northborough Rotary Club, and my job that morning is to get everyone into their booths. But by late morning, early afternoon, I'll be able to spend some time in it. Be happy to.
I can be there from like 11 on.
When does it start, 10?
It's 10 to
end of 3.
3. 10 to 3.
Well, I could do 10 and you guys can flow in
Yeah.
as your schedules allow.
I could be there at 1.
I'll be out of town, unfortunately.
You're always at it.
So it's okay if we had handouts like this?
As long as it's not produced by us.
It can't be town printed, municipal printed. If you want to print it at home, that's fine. If it's something that, Colliers or HKT has printed and not charged us for, then it's fine. But you can't use municipal funds or municipal resources.
To support a ballot
To promote the outcome of a ballot question.
Well, if you give me the original, I'll print it.
Yeah, I can also help with the graphic design, or putting together
So
a handout. or-
which one are you talking about?
You
John?
had this certainly at town meeting in April or
Okay.
subsequent?
The reason I'm asking is because the deputy can send them out to whoever wants them.
Neil?
Well, we can do that, but, by all means, that was the original one put in for April's town meeting, just to kind of give information.
Yeah, this is dated May.
Yeah, if you want
Yeah.
to design something new, take new information. We also have a QR code that goes directly to the YouTube page, and a QR code that goes directly to the website, so we can share that stuff.
We'll just share that stuff out with Tom and Diana, and you want it too, John?
I'll just send it, we'll just send it.
Just send it to the committee, and you guys can do what you want. I'm trying to walk that fine line of not, what I don't want to have happen is someone stand up and say, oh, you did this. Well, no, we're being very careful to make sure we're not doing any of that. So I want to be very clear on that.
Is that a conflict of interest law?
No, well, it's not a conflict of interest, it's actually a ballot law. So the ballot question, the same thing with a candidate. Someone who's being paid by the town cannot either endorse, I can't even give money to. If the committee was collecting money, I couldn't donate money, so it's really
It's all
strict
under
on
campaign
employees.
finance laws.
Yeah,
This is
really
a-
strict.
This is an election, and it just happens to be electing a fire station
Yep.
rather than
It's
electing
a
a
little
person.
bit more flexible than a candidate itself,
Yep.
but not a whole lot,
Right.
but just a little bit more.
But it's more about facts than, like, it doesn't sound like we can use any of the renderings or those things, right?
If
we
they
were
already
saying-
exist, you can use it, we can't create
Okay.
something new.
Right.
Anything that's already been paid for, I assume.
Right, it already exists. So
Okay.
as long as we're not making something for this, it shouldn't be a problem.
But could we get a PDF of a rendering,
Right.
print it
Yeah,
at Staples, large format, spray mount it on a foam core, boom?
Yeah.
absolutely.
So we have rendered site plan and the floor plans that we can send you,
Yeah.
and we can send you
I love that one.
the rendering, 3D rendering.
Yeah, I think just through the chair, the biggest thing, is the money, but you cannot say anything to sway a person one way or the other.
You can give information, you can't ask for their vote.
That's the biggest thing. If somebody says, well, do you support it?
But we can.
I'm part of it.
We're
Well,
not, we're not paid by the town.
Can the committee members?
He didn't say either way.
Yeah, I don't.
Andy didn't say either way. I can't, you can't, he can't.
Yeah.
Representing the town, so yeah, that is probably so. With that, we just don't want to have a hiccup come up, by somebody finding a loophole and going, hey, we should stop this project from investigating,
I mean, do you support it? I'm on the committee.
Yeah, I'm on the committee, this is what we're putting forward, and the committee voted for
It
it.
was a unanimous vote.
That's just factual. That's factual information. There's nothing wrong.
That's a good way of putting
It's
it.
in the public domain.
What you can't say is, can I have your vote?
Yeah.
Right.
You can't do
Well,
that.
Yes, that's my fault.
You're not supposed to do that. But if you say, yes, I'm on the committee, I supported it through my vote on the committee, that's all public information, the committee voted unanimously. You're giving them all the information, you're just being careful how you're doing it, that's all.
So Tom, you can be there from 10 to 1?
I don't know if I can make it to 1, but at least 12.
Okay. Can somebody take over at 12?
Dawn, I can be there at 11, so I could,
Okay.
so overlaps.
We'll tag team.
Yeah,
And you can at least stay till 1?
sure.
You can stay longer, obviously,
I might,
if you
you
want.
know.
But I can't get there until 1.
Fine.
So. And Mitch,
Yep, I'll try to get there 12:30.
okay.
Awesome.
And Diana and Tom kind of,
Diana's not going to be around, she's going out of
I
town.
know, but to put things together.
She just doesn't care.
I'm talking about putting things together so that we've got
That's what
something.
Tom and I are gonna put together a document.
Yes, yeah, they're going to take care, yeah, we're going to email stuff to them.
The graphics, yeah.
Okay. So discussion on town meeting presentation.
One quick
Yeah.
question, if you want to reuse any of the renderings that we've done, which are the two before, we didn't put any words on them. So if you take a look at this, but at the two slides before, I say information to be added, like, on the street name, do you want arrows put on? It depends on the scale of it, like if you start shrinking this thing down significantly, and you've got all these other things going on, it dilute,
Yeah.
it takes away. So you should think about that a little bit, and then we can, because we will use them, these are renderings for us, so we'll use them a certain way, but you might want to use them differently, so.
That's great.
But we have a site, the floor plans and the elevations that we've done, have done for other reasons, so.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank
Anyone
you.
else? Okay. Town meeting presentation, Chief.
I put it on there because I think it needs to be discussed. Who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? What's going to be done? I assume, will HKT be there in Colliers? I assume. Will they be leading the presentation? Will the chair be speaking? Well, I don't know. I just wanted to put it on there, so I don't want to wait until just before and go, okay, what are we going to do?
The chair would like to make the motion, but as far as the presentation, I think that it should probably be you people.
Bring to us. Yeah, I mean, we'll do whatever
Okay,
you
sure.
need, just think long and hard about that, because some towns really want to hear from townspeople.
From local people, that's my experience
And
too.
then some people really want to hear from technical, so it could go either way. Diana, you have experience too in public meetings like that. Which way would you lean? Maybe too, but what do you do typically for a school project? Do you do it yourselves or?
We usually do it ourselves.
Yeah.
I would assume that, myself, that maybe the chief would open up first by
Yeah.
just talking about the need and what drove the need.
I could do that.
And they would speak to,
And you,
Price
and
and
certainly the amount of time, and then what you want us to focus on, sort of like, we've been doing this for a year. We don't want to start at the beginning, but we have to start somewhere.
So I can do an intro, that's easy, and we'll work that out, but what do you want, what do we want them to present?
I think presenting the design obviously makes sense as to why, this is what it will look like, this is how it will operate, the clean zones and things like that, I think, are very good to come from you. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to present any of it, but I don't need to present any of it.
No,
either.
I'm thinking,
Yeah.
and this is just a suggestion.
Yeah.
I would love after they were done, if you wrapped it up with a close, a good,
Sure.
strong closing, you know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
And just so basically, sort of like when you do a paper, you tell them what you're going to tell them,
Yeah.
then you tell them, and then you tell them what you're
When I-
going to.
When I do these, I almost like to tell a story.
Yeah, and I think that's perfect at that
Yeah,
point.
And that can even be like a little bit before and a little bit after.
Yeah.
We started in whatever it was, 2016, or, whenever
17,
the
yeah.
original version of this formed.
Yeah.
And we looked at this and we looked, because that starts to answer a lot of the questions that people might have, even though we've dealt with them. There are going to be a few hundred people in that room, not all of them will have seen all of our meetings.
But
Most
I
of them
think the
will not.
history should be at the beginning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you covers that,
yeah, the chief would cover the beginning and how we got to this point, and what we've developed would come next from the architects, and Mitch wrapping it up as far as.
I'd suggest you cover the deficiencies in the current station.
And maybe I'll do whatever you guys
and-
want.
And the needs. Then I can cover the history. Okay, we formed in 2017. This is what we looked at multiple sites and give it a quick review of those things. And then we settled on this location and this general appearance. And then we hired these designers, welcome designers. And then you come up and talk about the design, and then I can say something at the end if you want. And somewhere we've got to include the finances. If Jason Little is comfortable with that, he can do it. Or Tim can do it.
I think Tim can do the overall cost, and Jason should do the tax
The tax,
impact.
perfect. Yeah, that's what I mean. Okay, good.
Is there a time limit on a presentation?
There's only 2 items on the agenda.
No, I know, but I just didn't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's time limits on different things.
Only if the moderator would place such, but I don't think you would.
People are there for this article.
Madam Chair, I have an idea. The second video where the chief is talking about the needs, et cetera, a cut-down version of that could be informative to start with. I'll throw it out to the group for consideration.
Doesn't matter to me. I'll do whatever. Whatever you guys want. I've been talking and presenting a lot. And I think people get tired of hearing my voice. At least I don't. I love hearing my voice, but I think other people get tired of hearing my voice. But I just think it's really, it doesn't matter how we do it.
Inevitably, though, you're going to have people who really haven't watched a video or watched a meeting and really know nothing of it. So I think it's okay if you are talking again.
So why don't we do this? And then if it's okay with this group, Deputy and I'll sit down and we'll come up with a plan. Right? So like you said, we'll have this, we'll have this, we'll have this, and then I can email it out with different things, and if people have feedback, they can give it back to us. Will that work? Instead of us, we could talk it to death here, I think, but I think that may help, and then you guys can put together the final presentation, and I can send you something, or whatever it happens to be. Would that work?
Yep.
Okay.
And then somebody needs to be sort of the person up at the podium to deal with the questions. Because those questions might be operation related, those questions might be something else.
You'll need someone there for operations,
Yeah.
you'll need someone from the design team.
Yeah.
And you need someone from either the select board or finance. So you need to have, so it
Yeah.
would be the same people, it would be me, you, Jason, and HKT for Colliers.
All right, any other business that legally can come before the committee? I do have a question. When are the selectmen putting this on the ballot? Or developing the question?
Executing the warrant?
Executing the warrant will be September 9th at our next meeting. We've already closed the warrant, and we have a template article in place, and we'll replace that with a final wording with the final dollar figure, presumably that we voted tonight on September 9th, and we'll execute the warrant that night.
So
Ballot question is already done.
I'll be there. I don't know if the rest of the committee needs to be there, but obviously you're always welcome. It won't be a posted committee for us, because it'll be a select board meeting, but we don't need to have HKT or Colliers there, I don't believe, do we?
I don't think so. I mean, it can't hurt, you know, I
I'm afraid we did.
I think and hope we're beyond that.
Yeah. How about we
I
just
don't
keep them if we need to call them, and I can,
Yeah, I think, if I were to guess, I think of anybody, Tim might be worthwhile to have remotely, because this is gonna be the first time the select board will have seen this final number, and they may have potentially questions as to how it was arrived.
are you available that night?
Which night is it?
It's, September 9th.
On Monday, September 9th, you know.
You can just come in a hybrid and stay there, and if we need you, you can just pop in.
Madam Chair, is there a need for the committee to meet before town meeting?
A need for us to meet before then? I think we need to
Sorry, Dan.
finalize our plans as far as
We do
what.
have a-
Schedule's up
We have
here.
an updated schedule.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a little bit of schedule, and Tim can talk a long time about the construction phase, but, so we have town meeting, we don't have any other scheduled meetings at this point in time, Don. So there's nothing else scheduled for this, except for town meeting, and then, of course, the debt exclusion vote on November 5th, October 7th, November 5th. And then, so we aren't here for anything, you know, so at this point, I don't know what it would be. And then just to go through the possible bidding phase beginning in January, first week of January, January 8th, and then with the filed sub bids coming in January 28th, and then general bids somewhere around February 13th. And these are just possible dates, but it trails with what we've been talking about. And then after the contract signing, we're estimating about 18 months of construction, hopefully 16 months of real solid work, and then 2 months of closeout.
So you're looking at August, September of '26.
And then you have to move in.
I'll be gone.
Um,
Although someone's trying to talk me into, people are trying to talk me into staying, but.
Someday a chief is gonna get the retirement after we move into a building, always retire during it.
It's
But
okay.
anyhow, it's, you know, the one big thing, and I have talked to Tim about this in the past, is that we want your contract to be ready to go. You know, your front end of the specs is super critical to get going on, so your lawyers have looked at it. So that contract is ready to go. You don't want to have to be in a negotiating phase because the language isn't right or
So
something.
you guys developed that whole thing, and
No, but, no, that's a, oh,
Well, we'll talk
Yeah.
with Scott about
Okay.
what they typically use in town.
Yeah.
But we have options that if they'd rather use what we can provide, we can do that too.
let me know, we can get together, we can do a quick meeting with the three of us.
so there's a lot of front-end pieces to the specifications that, that have to be done by the town, or, you know.
Scott's very good with all that, he definitely knows what he's doing on that end.
Anyhow, so then we can get that contract signed right away, and then they can, because there's a tremendous amount of site work to be done before you even see anything that resembles a building. We've got to get rid of, you know, we've got to push the hillside back is the number one thing. So, and that is a delegated design, if I've talked about that before, so it's a delegated design. So the contractor has to hire, if people are gonna do that, it has to be engineered, it has to be shop drawing approved, et cetera, et cetera. It's a long process before they can even get it. And then they have to,
Okay.
actually manufacture the block, and then build it. It's not a small wall.
So, in thinking about all those things that have to happen, that's kind of why we developed, or threw this out as an option, as bidding, very early in the year, so that you can award or have a letter of intent or a notice to proceed. Because even with a simple project, you sign a contract, they're not showing up the
can
next
both go if
day.
you
It's
want.
gonna take 3 weeks to mobilize and kind of get their permits and get their subcontractors on board to start their erosion controls and that sort of stuff. And as Janet mentioned, one of the first things they're really gonna be doing is trying to get that wall finalized. So there's the whole design process and submittal process. So that's gonna have to happen right out of the gate. So if we're able to give a letter of intent or even sign a contract, even at the end of February, the end of March, as things are, thawing, they can start to mobilize and get going. So, and then 18 months brings you to, that September period. So that's, before you're getting into the bad weather to be able to move in and kind of get used to the station and live there a little bit before going into a winter. And, it gives a little bit of time to, it is the best design. It always takes some time to live in a building and really see how it works and it functions and fine tune and tweak the heating systems and that sort of thing. So it all seems to work pretty good. 18 months may be a generous period, but it's a small site. So logistically, how much room of the site are they gonna need to be excavating to build that wall? They don't have a big open field they can use as their laydown area or their equipment storage. So we'll give the contractor the time, and then they can come up with a plan and let us know what they can do and how they can meet it. But this seems to kind of lay out nicely.
Tim, is the next item in that critical path the geothermal wells? You gotta be drilling well holes?
I would imagine it's going to be, just because of the logistics on site. Janet and I were talking about this earlier today, just that one project that they're working on, they decided to drill later, just for site logistics reasons or other reasons. But I would imagine that most of the time they'll want to get in there early and start drilling right away. It doesn't take long to drill an individual well, but we're going to be drilling a bunch. So it's going to just take some time. And so while they're working on the wall, maybe they can be also working in a different location or a different section of the site to get those wells in.
Do we know where the wells are gonna be? Are they gonna be in the front of the building, the side, the back? Do we know?
Yes.
Yes.
There are a lot, Amy can tell you, she just came out of a meeting about this.
The underground utilities are very complicated and challenging, and we've had a number of coordination meetings with the civil engineers, the geothermal engineers, the electrical engineers, trying to figure out how to get all of this to fit. And we don't have it all figured out yet, but the wells are going to be all over. And one of the possibilities that we're looking at is even putting some wells underneath the apparatus bay to get all the wells in that we need. So we're trying, once the wells are in, you shouldn't need to touch them for 50 years, so it's not an issue to do that. But I understand when we say that, people get nervous. So we're looking for other options first, but it's one of the things we've considered.
If it was a town road, for instance, we put them in the road if we had to. We've done that before, but it's not.
Right.
So you have.
We can't get the state to okay a good crosswalk across, let alone
Yeah,
a
I mean,
well.
one of the biggest challenges is just the groundwater and the fact that we've got Mass DOT there and we can't have any water leaving the site, any stormwater leaving the site. So we have a lot of underground stormwater stuff that we're having to work around.
And the wells have to be 25 feet apart from each other.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can do a row of them. They're 25 feet apart. So-
We should put them in the town common. and just pipe it over.
Put over.
Well, we
Because
talked-
wide
if
open.
if that's possible, we'll look into it. Because
Wide
we've been
open.
talking about going out onto Monroe, down, you know.
We,
like-
yeah, I mean, the old driveway onto Monroe Street, we're planning on putting a few there, but it's not wide enough to do 2 rows of them. We can only get 1 row in there, so, I mean,
It's been a challenge. It's a
And
challenge.
they're 100% buried though, right? You,
Yeah.
once you put them in, there's not a wellhead on top
Oh, yeah.
or anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
You won't know they're there.
Before, I just want to make sure, Tom did ask, do we need to have another meeting before
Yeah,
town
that's
meeting?
what I was gonna say. We're back to, do we need to have another meeting? It's not sounding as if we need to have another meeting, but it needs to be coordination for the presentation.
Well, I was going to mention, I've been going through the 50% construction documents, and I have questions and comments. I don't know whether it's appropriate now, or do it with the design team and the chief, or have another meeting. There's a lot of things that are not coordinated yet in terms of, well, for example, if you put that rendering back up, there is a flat roof above the entry, but I've never realized that before. And so this, all this discussion about snow guards and restricting the snow, well, you can't see a short roof.
It's right.
it's actually right over here. It's not above
It's,
the
yeah, below the
entry.
windows. It's about 6 feet wide. I didn't know that. And then there's a metal galvanized railing system on top of the parapets in your construction drawings, but it's not in any of the renderings.
Oh,
Is that being used?
it's not going to be as tall as.
It's about
you're
this high.
Yeah, that needs to be adjusted. It's not going to be that
Okay.
tall. It's probably going to be like one rail.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
So Tom, I can just say that, you know, if 50% is a low bar, and, you know, even from 50% to
Yeah.
what we have showing, if you would look at our drawings today, it's
Okay.
a significant change. But it's, you know, if you wanna, do you wanna share them with us? How do you wanna do it?
I'll type them up, and I'll refer to the sheets.
Okay.
And you can, they may already be answered.
Yeah, they might be. That's what I wanted to say to you.
I was wondering why I couldn't find fire extinguishers, a Knox box, or a fire beacon.
Because those plans haven't been gone over by us yet.
But there are fire protection and fire alarm drawings.
Yeah, we put the fire extinguisher on the architectural drawings. We just haven't gotten to them yet.
Stuff, small stuff, housekeeping stuff.
And Knox boxes, we've talked about in the office, we, you know, found them and we said, like, should we have it on this wall or this wall? You know, we have to talk with the chief, and so
I
we've
understand.
talked about all of the above. Those
Yeah.
are certain the details that we don't.
And this, the maple is the predominant material used for the trim around the windows, the wainscoting in the hallways. But the reveal of the windows has the maple coming out an inch proud of the gypsum board. But there's no flat casing, so you've got this edge projecting beyond the wall plane. So you've got this little overhang, that's gonna get beat up, especially in the public areas, you know? So my concern's about how that's gonna wear.
Okay.
Anything else?
But I'll put
Decide on the
my,
need for a meeting or
That's
not?
what we need on the meeting.
I think it's not a bad idea to tentatively plan on one immediately prior to town meeting, like,
Week
town meetings,
before?
no, I'd say like 6 o'clock.
That day.
Yeah,
That night?
that day.
I would agree. I think just like the select board would do normally
Yeah,
for,
and the select board will have one, I'm sure.
so we'll post it for 6 o'clock. I'll get the agenda.
Yeah. And that's
Bless you.
to deal with question, you know, if we hear a repeated question that we need to think about as a group before the presentation or something like that, we may end up not needing it.
But I think it's a good
I
idea.
think it's a good idea to have. Other than that, I can't think of a reason
No, I'll
to
keep
schedule
you
a
in the
meeting.
loop as far as the presentation.
If something blows up and we need to have one, we need to have one.
I agree.
Yeah. Well,
Correct?
October 7th
It's so jumpy old.
will be our next meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
May I have a second?
second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.